Why would they make an episode about books? Books are boring. Books are for nerds. Jarvis, blur out my books, please. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's King Newsme. I asked you guys which episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark you wanted to see me talk about, and you guys voted for The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter. Oh, wait. There we go. This time I decided to not listen to the polls and go with the episode that got last place. But I will admit, this poll was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I figured the Phantom Cab would have at least 70%. I also know people like familiarity. That's why I put the Phantom Cab on the poll, but there's already tons of videos about that episode. Hell, even JonTron has a video about that episode, and I will talk about it one day. But I wanted to go with the episode in last place to try and give the underdog a chance for once. And who knows, maybe this will inspire some of you to start voting for episodes you haven't seen before. And for the people that don't know, Are You Afraid of the Dark is a children's anthology horror show that follows a group of kids called the Midnight Society as they tell scary stories around the fire, and we watch the stories that they tell. It aired on Nickelodeon from 1992 all the way to 2000, and it has 7 seasons of spooky stories and some legendary characters for fans of horror. It was revived in 2019 and now tells seasonal stories kind of like American Horror Story. And today we're looking at the 6th episode of the 3rd season, The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter. Surprisingly, this is one of 6 episodes where the characters don't come back for another episode, but the episode itself does make an appearance in a music video commercial made for Nickelodeon called Feel the Fear, with a ton of other episodes. It's honestly the most 90s song I've ever heard in my life, and it would actually make a pretty good Halloween song. Anyways, that's enough yapping. Let's get into the episode. This one starts with the Midnight Society, of course. Frank is tending to the fire when his crush Sam comes around with some extra logs. Frank tries to be nice and help her, but he does it in the wrong way.
Babe, they're way too heavy for you.
They're not.
They are.
Fellas, if you want to help a girl out with something, don't start your sentence with, "Let me help you, babe." That'll never end well. "Oh, are those logs too heavy for you, babe? Let my big man muscles help you, babe." You see how douchey that sounds? And since Frank wants to help so bad, she decides to let him by dropping the logs on his feet. Oh. Told you it never ends well. Finally, Gary and Tucker come around and they can start their meeting. It's Betty Ann's turn tonight, and she decides to tell a story about stories. She tells the group that you can tell stories about monsters, ghosts, and demons, but the only reason those stories are scary is because of your imagination.
If you're really into a story, you become part of it.
You start to wonder what you would do if you became face to face with the monster in the story. And if one day you magically get trapped inside the story, you might need to use your imagination to get out. So throw the probably toxic chemicals onto the fire and let's begin. We start this episode by meeting Belinda. She's a babysitter for kids who don't like babysitters. And after she babysits any kid, they magically flip their stance on babysitters. Except for this kid. This kid looks like he's terrified. After she books her next babysitting gig with this family, she accidentally drops her book of pain and suffering. Are we sure she didn't trap the kids in that book? There was a lot of screaming going on. Then we cut to our main character, Ricky Winter. He is a lazy, rude kid that doesn't want to do anything but sit in front of a TV and rot away watching movies. Kind of sounds like me when I was younger. Except for the rude part, I think. I hope. His mom is a real estate agent, and she has to leave to sell a house that she calls the Talbot Place, which might be a nod to the old Wolfman movies because the main character was named Larry Talbot. There's actually a new Wolfman movie coming out in like less than 10 days when this video is released. Pretty excited to see that one. Since she'll be leaving Ricky alone for a couple of hours, the mom hires Belinda to come babysit him, which Ricky isn't so happy about.
A babysitter? Mom, I'm 12 years old.
Yeah, just give him some pizza money and let him stay up watching 1932's The White Zombie featuring Bela Lugosi, which is actually on the TV. That's not a lie. I thought it was Dracula at first, so I'm glad I fact-checked myself before I put it online. Would have been embarrassing. Luckily, Belinda gets there just in time for Ricky's mom to leave. But I don't think Ricky's mom has ever seen a goth girl before because she has quite a strange reaction to Belinda.
Wasn't expecting someone so
what?
So what is your secret?
No, don't change the subject. What were you gonna say? She asked Belinda what is her secret to making kids like her, and she just says,
I have imagination.
Which is good because she gives Belinda the impossible task of prying Ricky away from the TV. That's not gonna be easy. But Belinda isn't worried because she brought some books to read.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After Miss Winter leaves, Belinda tries her best to get to know Ricky a little bit. But she's of course just met with a bunch of sass. Probably because she's blocking the TV. No, I gotta side with Ricky on this one. That's annoying as shit. Since she won't be able to pry him from the TV the easy way, she's gonna have to do it the hard way. And by that, I mean she steals a remote and turns the TV off. And she makes it disappear with a cool magic trick. And she tells him if he reads a book for just 5 minutes, then she will leave him alone for the rest of the night. Easy peasy! So he picks up a book and starts reading. As he begins reading, the lights around them start to flicker. And as he mentions somebody coming towards the door in the story, they hear in real life. Sadly, that story didn't tickle Ricky's fancy.
You only read one sentence.
Hey, sometimes that's all you need. She tells Ricky that he has to actually try to read the story before he gives up on it, and that he needs to use his imagination to be a part of the story. So Ricky picks up a book called The King's Sword, and the hooligan starts reading from the middle of the book. Who does that? He begins reading the book, and it starts talking about roaming around an empty, creepy castle. And as he's reading that, a hand starts reaching out for him from behind him.
This one's lousy too.
Okay, bro, maybe you should try reading more than one sentence. He claims this one is lame because it has too many words. Yeah, no shit. Belinda warns Ricky and says that once he starts a book, he really should finish it. So he tries to read this one book that has no name, but Belinda stops him and tells him that he's not ready for that book. He's at a 6th grade level right now. He's probably lower. He's probably like a 2nd grade level right now. This is a 12th grade level book. Remember when they used to do that in like elementary school? You can't read that one. That's a 6th grade level book. And this pisses Ricky off, so he just gets mad, gets up, and goes to his room, ignoring Belinda's warnings that he really shouldn't do that. And on his way to his room, you can see a mysterious figure stalking him from behind. And once he hops on his bed and gets comfy playing his Game Boy, he gets a visit from a knight? Holy shit. The knight tries to kill Ricky, but luckily he gets away just in time. He escapes to the hallway where he's met face to face with an honestly very creepy ghost. The ghost slowly floats towards him, reaching out as if to grab him, which makes Ricky panic so bad that he runs back into the living room with Belinda, where Belinda already knows what's happening to him, and she tells him not to worry, it's just his imagination, and they can make all the monsters go away by just simply burning the pages to the book. And as they do that, Belinda bangs on the door and warns Ricky not to listen to the other her. Wait, if that's the real Belinda, then who is this? Use your imagination now! The two escape to the kitchen and they use the kitchen island to block off the monsters. Belinda tells Ricky that he's now a part of the stories and he has to use his imagination to get out of it. And this is when we find out that Ricky has a horrible imagination.
Weird stuff happened, then it went away, and they lived happily ever after the end.
Really, dude? Of course that doesn't work and the monsters are still trying to beat the doors down. But what really sucks for Ricky is that he began to read 2 stories. And now he has to find a way to conclude both of them and make it make sense. Just then, the ugly Belinda witch breaks in, so they once again escape, this time to the basement, where Ricky's imagination is starting to get a little bit better.
They ran down to the basement where he kept his Uzi.
Yeah, now you're thinking. Where's the Uzi?
Afraid not.
Aw, thought he was gonna turn into a badass. Belinda tells Ricky that the story has to make sense for it to move on. Ironic because this episode doesn't really make sense right now. But Ricky thinks that the end of the story is in the red book that she's keeping away from him. So he convinces her to give the book to him, and as he flips through the pages, he sees that they're all empty. And he somehow got teleported into a castle. What's going on? This is when Ricky notices that whatever he does magically gets written into the book. Because like Belinda has been saying, this is his story. And as he reads his story, he hears a clanking sound slowly getting closer to him. Looks like the knight is back for round 2, and this time he's not messing around. He chases Ricky down, swinging the sword at him any chance he gets. Except for this one. He could have totally stabbed him right there. Ricky reads that he has to wait for his sign to defeat the knight. And what is that sign, you might be asking yourself?
What's the sign?
Give me a second, I'm about to tell you. The sign is the jewels on the sword match the jewels on the sword on his t-shirt. Yeah, I don't get it either, but it worked. But with the knight out of the way, now he has to deal with this poor little girl that's lost inside the castle. But Ricky isn't concerned, and he says the most Ricky thing ever.
Hey, look, if I knew how to get out of here, I'd tell you.
Damn, dude, you really have to work on being nicer to people. Ricky reads on a little bit, and he discovers that the little girl actually doesn't belong in this story. Like maybe she came from a different story.
You're the... Put down the book!
The witch has found her way into his story. And just before she could do literally anything, he picks up the knight's sword and slashes her stomach, turning the evil witch into a slimy green goo. That was honestly way too easy. I thought the witch would be a lot harder to defeat than that. Now that the witch is out of the way, there's only one monster left that he has to deal with. The ghost. But luckily for Ricky, him defeating the witch actually released a curse that was on the ghost, so now he can rest in peace. That was easier than I thought it would be as well. Wow, Ricky really got it easy in this episode. But the real question is, did all of this actually happen, or was it just Ricky's imagination? Ricky grabs the book from Belinda, and he reads of how Ricky himself will never limit his imagination again. And he finishes the story just in time for his mom to come home. And the once blank book now has a title that reads The Dark Tomb by Ricky Winters. And Belinda takes her book back, telling Ricky,
It's just a story, Ricky.
and later on we hear that Ricky went to the library to try to find the author of the book, but he could not find one, nor could he find the other books that she brought. That is because they were one of ones, the kids' stories. And that's where the story ends, but we fade back into the Midnight Society. Before they end off their meeting, Tucker rips the book out of Betty Ann's hands to read it for himself, but he turns to a page of the book that is detailing exactly what's going on right now.
Hey,
Gotcha.
Ah, but it was just a prank. How did she know that he would turn to that page? And look at that specific paragraph. Is Betty Ann a witch? Side note, I actually noticed while I was making the script for this episode that Tucker is in Mean Girls. He's Gretchen Winter's like boyfriend. I just noticed that. I don't know why it took me so long to notice that. And that's the end of the episode. It was a really good episode, honestly. It's got its darker moments that keep you like creeped out, but it's also got some pretty wacky, goofy moments like a witch melting into green goo. And I'm surprised this episode isn't talked about a lot more. It's really enjoyable. I really liked it. It does have some pretty creepy character designs as well. I know that ghost would have been in my nightmares if I was a child and I saw this. He might still be in my nightmares tonight, actually. The witch is also creepy-ish, but she kind of looks more goofy than creepy to me. I think this is a great episode that has a good message for kids to turn off the TV every once in a while and pick up a book and exercise their imagination. There's a huge lack of that, especially nowadays. And I also feel like this episode is better than the Phantom Cab, so I'm kind of glad I scammed you guys out of that episode. But I know why you guys like the Phantom Cab. It's the first appearance of Dr. Vink, but I honestly just might make a video with all the Dr. Vink episodes. Tell the Dr. Vink story. There's only 4 or so. But let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats. Also your name right here on screen. I'm also lumping in YouTube members with that now. So yes, YouTube members get everything Patreon members get. I do want to shout out some longtime Patreon supporters, Critter Morrison, Choco Me Pingu, and Kevin Schmelzen, as well as some newer YouTube members, Colby Schnell, Jerry Can, and Aaron Wilson. Thank you guys for supporting me directly. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Like the video if you liked the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.